Your voice matters.
Your
and
voice
your
matters.
Vote matters.
Yes.
And, like we said, that Attorney General Chris Mays, she won by what, 200 and some odd votes?
Yes. Very small
in the last
margins.
election. Democracy's on the line, folks.
Democracy is on the line.
Every vote counts. Your vote is your voice.
Yes.
I'll say for me, from a personal perspective, I never not vote. And the reason why is because people died for my right to vote. And that's a part of history.
Welcome to the Around the District podcast, and welcome to 2026, with this year being especially important because we have an election year this year. I'm Gabrielle Mazar.
I'm Nicole Brown.
And we're going to talk about some pretty important dates this year. So we have some elections coming up this year, and we want to talk about the importance of local and state elections. So with the emphasis on high-profile elections and national races, often the local and state elections get pushed away to the wayside. We get to see a lot less voter turnout. So here in Arizona, in the midterms, we usually see anywhere between 34 and 50 or under 50% voter turnout.
Midterm elections, people forget that they think about the big election as the presidential election. But really, you need to focus. People need to focus on which ones will impact their daily lives.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
because
we're talking about like community services and safety. Local officials elected are the ones that make decisions for public safety, road repairs, park maintenance. Then we're talking about like our tax dollars, where that goes. So your elected officials are responsible for creating budgets that determine where our tax dollars go. So are we talking about libraries? Are we talking about emergency services or community projects? You know, we even have like greater things about all that too. So we have to think about like how to make things affordable, and are we able to buy homes? Who's moving into these homes? Are we able to drive on roads? So what we want to do is we want to talk about some specific dates that are really super important this year. So we have our first election this year on March 10th. So that would be a couple of elections, or we have a Tempe City Council election on March 10th, and some other elections as well. So the last day to register to vote would be February 9th, with February 11th being early voting and early mail-in ballots that day. So super important we get started early to start registering to vote. So we are in January right now, and now is the time to get registered right away. We also have some other elections coming up pretty soon. So, you know, SRP.
Yeah, we do. SRP is important, so it's electing the board. And the date for that is on April the 7th. The election is on April the 7th, but the first day to do early voting is March 11th, and you can mail in your early ballots. The key thing about SRP is that you have to request a ballot. You can't just, you're not going to get a ballot unless you request it. And if you don't request it, you don't get a vote. You also have to be a homeowner in the district that is on the ballot. So everybody can't vote in the SRP elections, but it impacts everybody.
Yeah, it's super important if you're in the area that you can vote to vote in this election, because it does affect everybody.
To request your ballot.
Request your ballot to vote, because it does affect all SRP. What are we called? What are we called? People that have SRP.
Homeowners, renters, homeowners, seniors. It's for everybody.
Yeah.
It's important because everybody does not have a vote.
Yeah.
So those of us that do, in the district that you live in, you need to make sure you request that ballot. It's a complicated election. So we'll talk more about that on a upcoming podcast, but the election is on April 7th. And the key dates for that is April 11th is the first day to early ballots.
March 11th.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
March 11th. And then March 27th is the last day for the early ballots voting. And then April the 6th is the last day for the early ballot. Is that what you said?
April 6th is the last day of early voting.
Voting, and then April 7th is the actual election day.
Yeah,
for
so
SRP.
yes, so if you're in the area where you can vote, we can send out links for that as well. We'll put links in our show notes for that, so you can find out if you're in the area that you can vote for that. But please make sure that you look into that, because it does affect all of us that are people who have to have SRP. We know we only have two options here, so
And the overview on that is policy rates, or policies that have to do with clean energy bills and rate increases. So you're voting for people to vote whether or not your rates are going to increase, and so by how much. And we know Arizona's getting hotter.
Yeah.
Like even this winter, we weren't as cold as we should have been.
Yeah.
Like sooner, it was hot for a while.
Yeah.
And so it's important that people know that renters don't have a say. So you don't have a say. It impacts seniors, and affordability is a big issue. Clean energy is a big issue. So these type of elections are important because they impact you the most.
Yeah, schools, public schools. So,
well, the superintendent of instruction directly impacts schools.
Yes.
And what's taught in the schools. That's a local election that's important that we need to vote for when you're voting down the ballot.
Speaking of that, so we're going to get into that as well. So going into this year, which is our midterm elections, our primary elections are on May 19th. So that is super important. I'm sorry, I lied to you for that one. They're August 4th is our state primaries. So we need to be ready for those elections here. Your state primaries are going to be what are on the ballot going into the actual midterm elections on November 3rd. So that's the general election. So you have a say who goes onto the ballot going into the election. So you want to register. If you're going to register to vote waiting on the way into that, register to vote early. But if you want to register to vote for that, your last day to register for the primary election that's on May 19th will be April 20th. Early voting starts on April 22nd, and voting is May 19th. And what's on that ballot this year is all the way from U.S. House Representatives, our governor, state executives, state House and Senate, state Supreme Court, like you said, state superintendent of instruction. We have ballot measures. Right now, there are 3 ballot measures on. There are 3 ballot measures that they're looking at.
Yeah, I think we should explain that the primaries are, if whatever party you're associated with, you're voting for the person that's going to run against the opposite party,
right,
in the general election in November.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the primaries, you have a group of candidates, say, that are in running for superintendent of instruction, that you have to figure out is the best candidate that will get us to the policy, or the person who's going to be able to implement policies and run against the Republican candidate that will be the best for Arizona. So when you think about primaries on that election in August, you want to make sure that you are really researching who's on the ballot.
Who's on the ballot,
and
who you want to move forward.
Who do you want to move forward?
Right.
And that's for any of the governor election that's coming up, like you said, is going to be for superintendent of instruction. The House,
Supreme Court.
If there is more than one person in that party running for a position, it's called a primary, and that you get to vote for those folks.
And whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, you can vote in these primaries. So you cannot vote if you're an independent for the presidential preference election, but you can vote in these primaries if you're still registered as an independent. You just have to request whether you want a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. So you can, yes. So all you have to do is go to maricopacounty.gov, and you can register or to receive a ballot for either one of those primaries. So you have a voice who gets on to the general election ballot, which is super important to understand and know, is that you still have a voice in that.
Yeah, now we're no experts at these election things, but it's really important with the way the country is going right now. Democracy is on the line, that you realize what elections that in voting period is important. And then 2, who are the best people to put in place for these elections. So do your research.
Yes.
Do your research and figure out who aligns with your values, and then vote for that person to be in the general election against the opposite party for whichever party you associate with. And these dates are important because of that.
Yeah. And we need to understand that who we elect to these state and local elections are really the architects of our state and local government. So they're the ones, like I said, like we talked about, the ones that allocate our tax dollars, the one that build our roads, the ones that have to do with our police, our fire department, our school boards, our school, whether we have public schooling, whether we have libraries. So all of those things are super important. We're talking about your neighborhoods, your neighbors, all the way from, the very, very nitty gritty, teeny tiny little things up to the state level. So it's important that we get involved with that and know who these people are and what we want for our
These
neighborhoods.
are the city council elections for
city council
whatever
elections,
city you live in, that are going to make decisions on things that are going to impact your bottom line. That's always it. You have to think about that. And I think I'm going to speak from my own experience, because growing up, I didn't think midterms were important. I didn't understand how that worked. And I'm like, I only need to vote in the presidential election because that's the big one, but it's really not. And then even at that level, when the president is on the ballot, the down ballot elections are what matters.
Right.
Those are the ones that will directly impact your bottom line. The national ones, the president has an impact on us, but not like the state you live in. It's important. For example, in Arizona right now, when we're talking about those vouchers, those school vouchers, no policy will change if one party doesn't care enough to change. And right now, the Republicans are in control, and there's not a lot of regulations around these vouchers. And as we said on an earlier podcast, if you want to talk about fraud or abuse of funds and things of that sort, we know there's documented evidence that those school vouchers are impacted by fraud and, abuse of money and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important, because now, as a result, part of the reason why some school districts have to close schools is because there's a lack of enrollment or a decline in enrollment, and funding for those public schools.
Yeah.
And so that's all decided by folks in these primaries and these midterm elections and the down ballot elections when the president is on the ballot.
Yeah. And if you want to get more involved and know candidates more and know about what's actually happening, we have a few dates too for a panel discussion for Tempe City Council, which is when, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Tempe City Council is their election is on March 10th. There is next week there will be a panel discussion, so if you want to register for that, you can. It's on Mobilize. You can go in and sign up, and that's open to anybody. It's sponsored by LD12 and LD8, and so any of those constituents can go in, and who lives in the city of Tempe and wants to know who is running for city council. We've had a couple on here. We're not endorsing anybody, but we had a couple on here, and anybody who wants to just come on and explain why they're running, they could do that. And so that election is going to be on March 10th, and February 9th is going to be the last day to register. February 11th, the early voting begins. So, and then next week on January 20th, we're going to have a panel discussion sponsored by LD12 and LD8.
Yeah. And we'll put all these websites in our show notes. We'll put all these dates in our show notes so that you know exactly when they are. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about it, you can always reach out to us or send us a message so that we can help you reach out to people or know more about what districts you're in, to find out anything on a calendar that you want to get involved with. Even if you want to get involved with any other groups, people that we've had on here, we're happy to help you get involved, happy to help, get you registered to vote. Just get involved in any way, because the local elections are so important, and we want to help you register to vote.
Yeah.
Get out there and vote.
Check your voter registrations. You can go to beballotready.com.
Yes.
And then that will take you can go in, type in your information. It will tell you your districts. It will tell you what LD you're in. But it will also tell you if you're still registered to vote, because I know we had an issue with folks being purged off the voter registrations list by the county recorder's office. So make sure you're on there, and if not, make sure you update your information and then register to vote. You will see now, because we're in an election year, that there are people everywhere registering people. So you can't go there. You can go to some event and you're going to find somebody there registering people, and that's nonpartisan. They're registering people to vote.
Yeah.
how to whatever party you want to vote for.
Yeah, we have a few other websites too. You can go to azcleanelections.gov. You can go to vote411.org. You can go to elections.maricopa.gov and azsos.gov/elections. You can find out any other information about elections or voter information, election calendars, ballot measures. Some of them have voter assistance, help you register, voter information, also to see if you are registered to vote, or even if you are registered and maybe registered for an early ballot or an absentee ballot, making sure that you're still registered for that. These are some great websites for that as well.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you out in any way we can. We just want to get you involved and let you know that these are super important, and going into 2026, super important year this year, and we want to make sure that we can help anybody.
Well,
and
democracy is on the line, folks.
Democracy is on the line.
Every vote counts. Your vote is your voice.
Yes.
I'll say for me, from a personal perspective, I never not vote, and the reason why is because people died for my right to vote, and that's a part of history. You too, as a woman, you're included in that. So like, there's no way I'm not going to vote, because there were, up until 1965, people that looked like me didn't have the right to vote.
Yep.
Okay. That in my parents' lifetime. I wasn't quite born yet, but I was close.
Yeah.
And so, that's why it's important. Your voice matters.
Your
and
voice
your
matters.
vote matters.
Yes.
And, like we said, that Attorney General Chris Mays, Attorney General Chris Mays, she won by what, 200 and something odd votes?
Yes. Very small margins.
Election,
I think there was an election. I can't remember where it was. Someone won by 43 votes.
Yeah, in another state.
Recently. Yeah. So, I mean, even just one vote can make a difference. So, get out there, register to vote, find a way. If you need help, you can always message us on Around the Districts. Yeah. You can find us on our Instagram, our TikTok. We're happy to help, but please share, like, comment, and let us know how you feel. And we're happy to help. This has been Around the Districts, and we'll see you in 2026.